So I found this very interesting. Bernie Sanders has been talking about maybe announcing, which would be pretty ridiculous because I think he's like 76 years old now, 77. He was 74 when he was running. And it's interesting to see that he hasn't announced yet. And I don't really care if he does or not because I don't want him to win, but I really don't think it's even possible for him to win. So might as well just enjoy the ride, I guess. But it's interesting to see that really most of the attacks that I've seen at Bernie over the last few days has been from the left, from the establishment left. And Pink News is a pretty like LGBT establishment left. Like they represent all the loudest voices, but from my experience, from what I've heard people say, they don't really represent the average LGBT person. So that's something to keep in mind. As you can see from all the ridiculous intersectionality, like queer theory, crazy stuff on the right. In fact, I think organizations like Pink News has probably set back the LGBT like rights, I guess, for the most part, because all the people I know that are anti-LGBT associate being LGBT with being insanely far left. So there's just a little bit of advice there, I guess, if you're trying to promote acceptance among that community. But Bernie Sanders, this is interesting. That he apparently attacks Democrat focus on gay, black, Latino candidates. Now, that is mostly true, but it's a title, so it's just the title of a headline of an article. It's going to be twisted in some way. But apparently he went out and basically said, being progressive, focus on the progressive agenda. Being progressive is more important than being diverse, was essentially what he said. And that's something where I don't even know if I agree with that or not, because I don't care about diversity, but I'm also against the progressive agenda. So it's something where I don't even know if I really agree on that, because I'm against both. But he gave an interview to GQ, which GQ is pretty far left. But he criticized identity politics, something, again, I agree with. And focused and said, yeah, we should focus on talking points rather than the skin color of our members, which, I mean, I agree. I disagree with the talking points, but I agree with the general idea. So good for him. I think that's a genuine opinion, especially considering I think most of his base would probably oppose that pretty strongly. And it seems they have, because they've come out against him. In the interview, he said there are people who are very big into diversity, but whose views end up being not particularly sympathetic to working people, whether they're white or black or Latino. My main belief is that we need to bring together a coalition of people, of black and white and Latino and Asian American and Native American, around a progressive agenda which is prepared to take on an extraordinarily powerful ruling class in this country. This is my view. Many of my opponents do not hold that view, and they think that all that we need is people who are candidates who are black or white, or who are black or Latino or woman or gay, regardless of what they stand for, that the end result is diversity. I think that is a valid point, honestly. It's something where if he was promoting ideals that I would agree with more, I would fully back this. But at the very least, I do agree that ideas are much better than diversity. So even this statement here is really, I guess, kind of convinced me. Yes, I will say that the progressive agenda is better than diversity, even though they're kind of linked together pretty strongly, and I'm not a fan of progressives. But people have kind of attacked him for that. Notice that he does add that diversity is enormously important, because that's always what you have to add whenever you say something, that you're not putting down all the other things. That if you say something's not the most important thing in the world, you're not saying it's not important at all. But the interesting thing is with this article, shut up, bottom ad. How do I get rid of you? I don't think I can. Dang it. Bernie Sanders was criticized in 2016 for lack of minority voter outreach. There we go. Go away. I'm not going to cut that out, because that shows my frustration with this website. That's worth noting. But this is interesting to see that the article immediately goes and starts attacking Bernie Sanders for not supporting minorities, which, again, I'm not a fan of Bernie Sanders, but I'm going to defend him on the grounds that if anyone in the progressive agenda really cares about like equal rights equal rights across all race or gender, treating everyone equally regardless of race or gender, I think it's Bernie. The identity politics is not about treating people equally, it's about getting revenge, from what I've seen in my experience. The comments are unlikely to do favors for Sanders, who won little support from African American Democrats in 2016 and faced criticism for failing to reach out to minority voters, which is interesting, because again, I don't see Bernie Sanders. I see Bernie Sanders saying things that minority voters tend to disproportionately support. but I never saw him specifically go out and say and appeal to that. Actually, I take that back, because now I'm thinking of the "white people don't know what it's like to be poor" quote, which was a train wreck of a quote. It's something that I think anyone that's not far left would see the problem with that. Sanders also criticized establishment LGBT rights groups, like Pink News, who endorsed Clinton's plan on LGBT plus issues in January 16. So, I mean, he basically criticized organizations for supporting his opponent and not himself. Something that every politician will do, no doubt. The Sanders campaign accused groups including Human Rights Campaign and Planned Parenthood of being establishment organizations voting for the establishment candidate, which they pretty much are. They all kind of backed Hillary, and I think anyone that isn't corrupt, I think it's pretty clear that if you are going to be a progressive, if you are from that view, you would acknowledge that Bernie's probably more of a progressive than someone like Hillary. I think that was pretty evident. Like, I don't want either of them to be president, but I think it's clear that Bernie at least represented the progressives better, until he sold out and endorsed Hillary. Critics pointed out that Clinton's detailed plan included 24 specific pledges across LGBT plus policy areas, while the Sanders campaign listed just 7. Only 7 campaign pledges. What's that? 17? Yes, I could do math in my head. 17 policy points fewer, omitting many of Clinton's proposals. Clinton responded, "Really, Sanders? How can you say that groups like PPAC, I don't know what that is, and Planned Parenthood Act, I don't know, and HRC are part of the establishment you're taking on?" Sanders was also criticized by leading HIV/AIDS campaigners during the primaries, after the senator met with activists and immediately put a press release incorrectly inferring they support his policy plan. Interesting. And that's pretty much it for the article. But as you'll note, they went after him pretty hard here. This is pretty much all criticism of him, coming from a left-wing progressive LGBT organization. So it all comes down to, I think Bernie, I think one of my biggest criticisms in terms of pragmatism against the right wing is probably that they spend way too much time attacking the little unimportant things. Like, I guess a few days ago they attacked and by they, I mean certain people in comment sections. I don't mean everyone. I don't mean as far as I can tell, it's just people in comment sections and not like the big names, the big representatives on the right. But a few people were attacking this new congresswoman for dressing weird, and I thought it was a little weird, like how she dressed. But who cares? Who cares how she dressed? I really could not care less how someone in Congress dresses. That is not something you want to attack, because that looks pretty dang bad if you're focusing on how someone dresses and not their policy positions. Same thing with Ocasio-Cortez. She has kind of like a Trump effect going after her. And it's like, I have attacked her, yes, but I've attacked her on policy positions and not like weird things. I know I know they've attacked her on a few dumb things. One of those things was not dancing. I've noticed, I think it was one random account on Twitter that attacked her for dancing, but at least they were pretty smart when they were like, yeah, we're not going to attack her for dancing because that's really dumb. And the media reported they did anyway, even though they couldn't find much proof besides one account. Or I think they found a second one, actually. A second account on Twitter of some random dude with like 6 followers saying something like that. But yeah, I think when that same thing kind of applies to Bernie, that I've seen people go after Bernie really hard for the dumbest things. And there's plenty to criticize Bernie on, and good for them, but I don't think he's much of a threat at all. I just don't think he's going to ever have a chance of winning. Because you got to remember that Bernie is an old, rich, white man. And for the average person, for the person that's not an ideologue, I think an old, rich, white man, neither of those adjectives are a negative aspect. Like, person's old. Okay, like, that's just a description. Like, it's not a good thing or it's not a bad thing. It just is. Rich. I don't see that as good or bad. I just see that it is. White. I don't see that as good or bad. It just kind of is. Like, it's a completely neutral quality. And man, another neutral quality in someone. I don't think of people negatively for any of those things, but all 4 of them appear to be very negative traits. If you're progressive, if you're, in other words, Bernie's voting base, it seems that old rich white man, all 4 of those seem to be a bad thing if you're running for president. And it seems that under the most extreme, like identitarians, Bernie winning the primary would be an example of white supremacy. So it's not going to happen. He's just not going to win. So I say enjoy the ride. I say don't worry about him too much. just kind of enjoy the ride. There's going to be some good memes. If he doesn't run, like, whatever, that's that. I don't take him too seriously. Now, obviously, that can change. These are just predictions based on what happened last time and just who he is as a person. I don't think that's going to change, but I could be wrong. If he becomes number one in the polls, then sure, start attacking, spend more time attacking his policy positions. But until then, it's like, look at this. This is pink news here. This is a very politically correct left-wing organization here that is just it's devoted a whole article here just to totally attacking Bernie just because he said your skin color is not the most important thing. It's your ideas. And I can agree with that. So, on the one hand, I guess I want to give him credit where credit is due. He just by reading this article from the beginning to the end of this video, I went from I don't know if I agree, and then reading the article again, I'm like, actually, I think I can agree with that because his greater point was ideas are better than skin color, and I think we can agree with that. But unfortunately, a big part of his voting base does not. But I'm just glancing at some of the trending things on the right here, and it's intersectionality, queer. There's a reason I don't visit this site, other than to find articles to do videos on, because this is just cancer here. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments section. If you think I'm totally wrong, let me know why. Like the video if you enjoyed. Subscribe for more. And thanks for watching.